we got that part good. Now we got to figure out the camera.
There we go. There we go. How you doing, Steve?
All right. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Oh, there it is. Turn on the camera. Here we go. All right. Let's not look like complete amateurs here. All right. Let's see. All right. We got it.
There he is.
All right. What's going on?
Feeling fantastic, Steve. I have a story to tell, man. I haven't closed the deal yet, but buyer's already deposited EMD. You know, sometimes your back does get put up against the wall, Steve. My back definitely was up against the wall. Ernest was going hard, and the buyer that said that they would buy it from me for a 5K assignment backed out on me last second. And I swang it, you know, with no guarantee of a buyer, but $1,500 on the line. And man, I had to make it happen. So I made it happen. I brought another buyer in for a $7,500 assignment fee. He's deposited
Nice.
to Ernest, so we're secured on our side and just waiting to close for Friday.
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Let me go on ahead and start the event. I'm going to ping everyone, and we'll get them in here. I'm super excited, Steve. Thank you so much for coming to join us today. I will.
Oh, thank you for having me, dude.
Absolutely. I will be the first to tell you I've been completely inspired by everything you've done with the Disruptors brand and Real Estate Disruptors, having the podcast, bringing on incredible guests. I can't tell you how many people you've impacted, you know, that you probably don't even know about. I know that your mission is to make 100 millionaires, and I certainly will be one of them. So prepare that plaque for me, Steve.
Oh, that's for sure happening. That's for sure happening.
100%. So let me go ahead and ping a couple people. I'm beyond excited for this one. This is going to be one of our best podcasts yet.
I'm looking forward to it.
Ladies and
We
gentlemen.
got 20 people here.
Oh yeah, we'll see a couple more pop in here after we get some pings out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not already, please send somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us on this podcast the link to come and join us. I'm going to send it in the side chat. Go ahead and send that into any of your Facebook masterminds, anybody you think would benefit. This is going to be an amazing sales training from the man himself, Mr. Steve Trang.
Well, hopefully I can meet that high esteem, the high expectations.
Absolutely. Meet and surpass. All right, so as we see a couple people pop in here, we can go on ahead and get it started. How much time do you have for the podcast today, Steve?
I mean, I got an hour easily. We can even go longer. So, I mean,
Okay.
I got an hour and a half. There should be no problem on my end.
Awesome. Perfect. So what I think we should do, we'll go ahead and open it up here in a second, and then towards the end of the podcast, if maybe we could do some Q&A with the community. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, everybody, this is the last chance before we hop into the podcast. Definitely please send an invitation to somebody you think would benefit from hearing Mr. Trang speak. This is going to be one hell of a podcast. Steve does it right every time. I'm beyond humbled for the opportunity to even be in proximity with you, Steve, work with you. I'm excited to talk about what you've got going on with the Sales Disruptors Discord community that you're launching. And Ian is just absolutely killing. I'm super excited. I got a couple of my friends that are interested, and one of them's already pulled the trigger, and he's in the group. Here he is in the audience, Goose 4500. Super grateful that you could come and join us today, man.
What's up? It's Jake, right? What's up, Jake?
Yep. All right, so without further ado, let's go on ahead and kick this off. Ladies and gentlemen, who is Steve Trang?
Oh, well, I'm a man that's done a lot of different things. I would say focus is not one of my strengths, but you know, I got Real Estate Disruptors. I am most well known for the podcast. We've been running it for over 5 years now. Last month marked the 5-year anniversary of running the podcast. And, you know, before running the podcast, I was already someone that's already had a track record in success. But, you know, I wanted to create a podcast to get the brand out, let people know, you know, we're in the business, we're doing things. And that worked out way better than I could have possibly imagined. You know, there was a little bit of fear. Like, there's already podcasters out there. You already got Sean Terry, you got Joe McCall, you got all these other guys out there already doing it. Like, is there really much room for myself? And fortunately, there was. But you know, I spent the first 9 years pretty heavily focused on the realtor side. I'm a wholesaler, reluctant flipper, own a title company, own fractional interest in apartments, fractional interest in a bank, sales trainer, podcaster. Like I said, I do everything pretty decently well, except for focusing. I think I got massive shiny object syndrome.
Looks like you're dabbling in the NFT world a little bit with the NFT behind you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how I got comfortable with Discord, right? I got into blockchain as well. Yeah, so we invested pretty heavily in NFTs. Hindsight, not the best decision, but I wouldn't have the opportunities before me today if I actually didn't get into that world as well.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us, Steve, a little bit about how you got into real estate. What was your inspiration to really get started in that industry to begin with?
Well, it's like a lot of other people. You know, you read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, and it's like, oh, there's another way to make money, right? Because, like, you know, my parents came here. We came as immigrants. You know, what do we know? Go to school, get good grades. Expectation was do good enough at school so you get a full ride to college, which I did, and then get a good job, which I did. And I did everything that I was expected to do. And when I got there, it was entirely uninspiring and unfulfilling. You know, I was worked as an engineer for Intel for 3.5 years. And I was working probably like the worst weeks, like maybe 30 hours, but I was usually working like 25 hours. I was rolling at 9:30 and I was out like, you know, Fred Flintstone at 5 o'clock. You know, I was out. I was gone. Mm-hmm. You know, taking ridiculously long lunches, leaving early on Monday so I can play basketball with NFL players at Lifetime Fitness, you know.
Oh, wow.
I did what I was supposed to do, and it was just uninspiring. And then you read the book, the purple book, you know, basically the purple Bible, and you realize, oh, there's another way to make money. Well, let's do that. And I started buying rental properties, and right after we bought rental properties, you meet a real estate broker. He's like, oh, not only is there another way to make money besides an active job, but realtors make a stupid amount of money, and they're not exactly the smartest, you know? So I was like, I can just jump in there and crush it there. I didn't, but my overconfident, borderline arrogant self thought I could. I eventually did well there, but it was not nearly as easy as I thought it was going to be. So, but that's how I got into real estate.
Wow. Just to take it back, so I think I've heard that you were born in Italy. Is that right?
Born in Italy. That's correct. Born in a refugee camp in Italy.
How did that happen?
Well, if you look back, you know, historically, my grandparents were born and raised in China, and then, you know, communism took over. And so they fled, and they fled to Vietnam. And so they had everything taken from them, right? They were merchants in China. They had everything taken from them. And they started from scratch in Vietnam with nothing. And they built it up again, all right? And then communism took over, and they lost everything. And so my parents fled, and when they fled on boats, like not like safe ships, but like boats, like a lot of boats that sunk in the open waters. We were attacked either by sharks or by pirates, like literally, you know, pirates. So there was a humanitarian crisis, and a lot of people saw what happened, and they were able to, you know, a lot of the other countries brought in these literal, you know, refugees seeking asylum. And my parents were picked up by an Italian Navy ship. We were brought into a refugee camp, and I was born at the refugee camp. And, you know, like, and when we came here, I was a toddler, so everything I know is American. But like we came here and we were poor, so poor, and I had no idea, right? Which means like my parents did a good job. I had no idea how poor we were. I knew. Let's see. I want to say maybe like when I was like 8 or 10. We had some family friends. My parents opened a restaurant, which was a colossal failure. They opened a restaurant, and one of the regulars was a life insurance agent who actually ended up building the largest hard money company at the time in Phoenix. And I remember he invited us over to his house because he liked my parents. And I was like, hey, Mom, Dad, how come this guy's guest house is bigger than our house? Right? Like, that's the first time you realize how poor you are. But beyond that, my parents did a pretty good job taking care of us, raising us.
Wow. So I can only assume that that's been a huge motivation for your success.
I think so. I think coming here, you got a chip on your shoulder, right? Like, one of the things that, being American, you kind of maybe not appreciate what you have. And it's a shame because we live in the best country, right, on the planet. So coming here and like having literally everything taken away twice due to, spreading the wealth, you come here and you're excited about opportunity, right? You're excited about what you can do because there's literally no cap to what you can accomplish. There's no limit. No one says, oh, you're not allowed to make $1 billion, right? Like Elon Musk came here, right, as an immigrant as well. And he's, depending on the day, the wealthiest man on the planet. So there's no limit to what you can do in this great country.
Well, that's incredible. I'm inspired. I know everybody in here is inspired by what you've been able to accomplish and the lives you've been able to impact. So I'm excited to hop into this, and I'd love to talk about sales and kind of what you've learned over your years in sales. Now, I know that you've been in real estate sales and you've gotten experience as an agent, and you've dabbled in being a broker as well. What was the first sales position that you had? What got you into the world of sales?
Well, before I got into real estate, I actually worked in a cold call center, and in that cold call center, I was basically reading a script. This is like one of my first jobs out of high school, and I actually did pretty well. They actually set a record for most sales in a day, but I wouldn't say I was good. I was just able to read a script well and able to kind of like follow a process. I was never consistently the best. In fact, I was consistently not one of the best, but there were days where I just crushed, right? But it wasn't until I actually got into real estate where I realized how bad I was at sales. And I was atrocious. And the reason why, again, if you look at my background, I was a former engineer. And engineers are not known for their sales prowess, right? So we tend to sell how we buy. And as an engineer, you got spreadsheets, you got data, you got figures. And so the way I used to sell as a realtor, you can imagine, right? I'm showing you houses. And I was like, well, this house is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,400 square feet. Like, what do you want to do? Like, that's not inspiring, right? Like, what you want is like, can you believe this living room and the parties you're going to throw in this backyard? You got to paint this picture, but I'm generally not an enthusiastic person, so I can't fake this enthusiasm. So that's where I struggled. But, again, going back to we sell how we buy, it took a long time. I want to say like 10 years until I actually met a sales trainer who kind of put pieced it all together. Like, I read the books, right? I've taken the courses. I read, I've done the trainings, but I could never get out of my own way. And when I say get out of my own way, is I was really focused on educating and getting what's the information across. And, unfortunately, people don't buy with information. People don't buy with education. You don't want to know logically that this is the best house in the neighborhood. You want to feel like you got the best house in the neighborhood, right? So we got to figure out ways for you to get that feeling. And so it wasn't until, again, like I said, 9 years, 10 years into my business that I actually learned how to communicate in such a way that people feel the feelings that they need to feel so that they can take action. So I went from a person that presented logically, because that's how I would buy, to a person that can now get you to feel the feelings required for you to want to buy. I'm no longer selling. I'm no longer pushing. I'm just sharing with you what you said you wanted, getting you to feel the emotions necessary to feel that, to compel you to take action, and then you make the buying decision based on what you wanted. So we're never tricking anybody. We're never lying. We're never deceiving. We're giving you what you want, and we're now understand how to connect with you physiologically so that you want to buy something versus me pushing you, which I think, we all have this. We talk about like how I, was selling the wrong way. The other people that sell the wrong way are all the classical salespeople because they're pushy and they're hard closing. And we don't do that either, right? I'm not trying to force you into doing something. I'm only applying pressure so that you'll tell me yes or no. And either way is fine. It's an assertive sales process. It is not an aggressive sales process, which is what most people feel when they go to a dealership. We're not aggressive. We're merely assertive.
I think that that's definitely something that everybody that gets into sales struggles with is understanding how to communicate those feelings. Because like you said, people make decisions based off of emotion and then rationalize them with the logic afterwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'd love for you to expand a little bit and tell the audience, how you can start to articulate what you want to say in a way that conducts feelings.
Sure. So, we can role play basically any scenario. What is a scenario we can talk through where I can ask you the questions to bring the emotions out? What is a scenario you want to do? Role play where you're a homeowner, buying a car, buying a program, buying a coaching program. Like what scenario would make the most sense for you?
I feel like real estate would be appropriate. So let's say I'm the homeowner. I've got a property that I raised a family in, and they've all gone off to college. I'm in the property, getting a little older, and I need to move. Let's say that's the scenario.
Okay. Okay, got it. All right. So John, as I understand it, I was reviewing the notes. I was looking here. So it looks to me, you're looking to sell your property because your kids have moved on and this house is getting a little big for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, when you're talking about the house is feeling kind of big for you, what does that mean exactly?
Well, it's just too much to maintain. I can't keep up with everything. Things get dirty. I can't maintain.
Too much to maintain.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And, when you're talking about it's too much to maintain, like what exactly are we talking about is too much to maintain?
Well, we got a big yard. I don't want to cut the grass anymore. The floors, I got to wipe down the floors, mop the floors. And
got it.
I just don't want to be responsible for that anymore.
Okay, so taking care of the yard and wiping down the floors. Okay. When you say it's too much, like, is it because it takes too much time, or is it causing kind of physical discomfort?
Well, I'm getting up there in age. It's hard for me to move around, and it takes me a lot longer than it used to.
Okay. So, I guess I'm just going to throw this out here. What's stopping you from maybe just hiring a professional cleaner or landscaping company?
I can't afford it.
Can't afford it. Got it. Okay, so that's off the table.
Right.
Okay. And so, how long have you been feeling like this house is too much to maintain?
Probably since last summer. That's kind of when the realization hit me.
Okay, so it's been about a year.
It's been about a year.
Wow. Okay. And when was the last time you were going through this and you felt like it was overwhelming?
When I woke up and I saw that the grass was, overgrown, the county, they started to come out and notify me that I needed to get it cut.
Oh, okay. So the city notified you.
They did.
Got it. Okay. So like they mail you, did they tape it to your door?
They came up, they had a white truck. She came out of the truck and she knocked on my door and let me know that if I don't cut the grass, they're going to come back and fine me.
Got it. And who else knows about that?
All my neighbors. I was completely embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Okay, so you were feeling embarrassed about all this.
Definitely.
Got it. Okay. And then, you mentioned also that you're potentially, you got your kids moved out and you're looking to move on. So what does that mean exactly to move on?
Well, I think that it would make sense for me to sell this and, downsize my house. I think moving into an apartment would be something that I want to do.
Move into an apartment. Okay. And then when you're talking about moving to an apartment, you're talking about like something with less upkeep, obviously. What are some activities you might do at that apartment?
Watch TV. You know, I don't really do too much anymore. I'm an old head.
Okay, but you could at least like relax.
Yes.
Okay, how would that feel?
Beautiful.
Okay, so as I understand it right now, you're feeling embarrassed because you've got this house you got to take care of, which is more or less overwhelming between the yard work and wiping down the floors.
Right.
And if you can move on and into an apartment, you can finally take a breath and relax and really enjoy the retirement that you deserve.
Exactly.
And those are the feelings I'm looking for, right? That's what I'm trying to pull out of you, right? Like, yeah, the house is too big. Okay, great. Like, that's where a lot of people will stop, right? You know, the books say you got to find pain, you got to find pain. Oh, like he's tired. The house is too big. Okay, he's motivated. Let's go. No, right? Like, I'm going to keep asking you questions until I find out what is the trauma, what is the pain that you're going through. And then we want to summarize it in a word. And then we can just keep hitting that word over and over again, right? So embarrassed, relaxed. Those are the two things we're going to hit when we start talking about negotiations, right? The price you're looking to get, time frame. You know, if you're not wanting to sign because you got to think about it, it's like, oh, you want to think about it some more. Okay, I guess I'm kind of confused. You know, when we were talking about earlier, you're saying like this is overwhelming and it's stressing you out and you got aches and pains. I must have misunderstood you. Right? So like when we're talking about taking the feelings, now you're going to want to fix this because this sucks. But before, when it was just the house is too big, that's not really enough for you to take a steep discount, and it's not enough necessarily for you to sign today. But embarrassed and relaxed, and the prospect of losing that relaxation, that's enough for you to sell at a steep discount, potentially, right? And then for you to sign a contract. Because now, yeah, if you can take this pain away, then, you know, I want you to resolve my issues.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, clearly you identified the pain, you isolated what it was, the problem, you isolated the problem, and then you provided the solution, which was a different emotion, right? That relaxation. How would you feel? What would you do if you were in that apartment? You kind of create that idea for the seller so they can visualize, you know, what is their next step? What is the action of selling this house going to do for me?
Right, because there has to be hope. Right? There has to be something that you're looking forward to. And if you don't sign today, you don't get that. There has to be something that's going to compel you to take action. And that's what sales is helping you realize the emotions you already feel. We're not manufacturing this. We're not making any of this up. You already feel this. You just may not feel it when I walked in through the door, when I called you initially. Right? But you felt these feelings, otherwise you wouldn't have filled out that web form. Or you wouldn't have taken this appointment. There was a time where you felt these feelings. My responsibility as a professional house buyer is to get you to feel those feelings again right now when I'm in front of you face to face or on the phone with you. That's our responsibility.
And you definitely did it.
Good. And when we're doing this right, it even sucks in the role play. Right? Like, when we're doing this correctly, even the role play sucks.
Man, I don't even own a house.
Yeah. So that's how you know you're doing it right.
That's awesome. And I know that, you know, this is related to real estate, but really sales in general is probably the same process, you know, it's just a different vehicle. And so to ask the same questions to get to the same result, it applies, you know, in multiple different industries. So this is very, very valuable, not just for real estate sales, but for any sales.
Well, and if you think about it, right? When you go to a doctor's appointment, they ask you the same exact questions. Hey, John, tell me about your back pain. How long has it been hurting? When's the last time it hurt? What have you tried to do about it? Did that work? What else have you tried? Man, like, have you given up on dealing with this back problem? What would happen if we can't help you? It's the same set of questions. It's just in a different setting. right? So in many ways, we were coming in like an unlicensed therapist or psychiatrist to help you facilitate and remove the pain that you're already experiencing.
And what are some ways, what would you say to like the person that's just getting started? How would you instruct them to conduct themselves in a way where they can speak as more of an authority so that they can step into that role of the unlicensed therapist and then start to communicate with these sellers in a way that they really do feel what they're trying to convey?
Sure. So I think there's a couple different things, and it's gonna be hard to get it in your first few months of your career, right? And it's not even really the first few months of your career. It's gonna be really hard to incorporate the first few months you learn these concepts. And so when we're talking about, going through the pain of the embarrassment, right, of wiping down the floors and dealing with the landscaping, there's intellectually the idea of getting used to feel this pain, right? Intellectually, we know this is what we want to do. Here's the objective. But there's also a line of questioning involved with it. And there's also the phrasing of the questions, right? I'm going to be asking you what questions, how questions. I'm not asking, are you question, right? I'm not asking, will you questions. I'm asking you open-ended questions on purpose, because what I want to do, hopefully this appeared smooth in this role play, hopefully. But when we listen to call reviews, what we find is we know the objective. We know we want them to find pain. But then we'll ask questions in a way where they don't answer it the way we want them to. And what I mean by that is we're asking verb-led questions, right? So like, here's another example. I'm hoping that people can get value here on price negotiations, right? If I ask you, John, how much were you hoping to sell your house for? You're going to give me a number that's tied to Zillow, tied to Redfin, tied to a sold comp in the neighborhood, to what a realtor said the house is worth. I am now fighting an uphill battle because you feel totally fine anchoring to this significant number. If I ask you, hey, John, how much were you hoping to walk away with after you sell your property? You would have a hard time telling me you would want $200,000 in your bank account, right? That's the difference in asking a wrong question versus a right question. How much you want for your house is hurting yourself because there's an artificial number and it's a heavy anchor, right? Redfin, Zillow, Open Door offer me this. All these other figures are real numbers that are in writing that are from authoritative websites. That's an anchor. If I ask you how much you're hoping to walk away with, that's an open-ended question that doesn't necessarily have an anchor associated with it, right? So let's just say your house is worth $400,000 and you have a mortgage of $150,000 on it. If I ask you how much you want for it, you're like, well, let's close to $400 as possible. How much you hoping to walk away with? Man, if I can get $100,000, I can do pretty good. I have a down payment. I can pay for a moving truck. I can do A, B, and C, pay off some credit card debt, whatever. That's a $250,000 purchase versus a $400,000 purchase. So just asking the question the right way automatically shifts the negotiations in our favor. And so again, when you're asking the question, what do they need to do to have the authority? This is in many ways like learning a new language or a new skill. You can't learn. I mean, you're down in South America, right?
Right.
Like, how fluent is your Spanish or Portuguese right now?
Semi-fluent Spanish, working on the Portuguese.
Yeah, right. But you're not fluent. You didn't pick it up over the weekend. You didn't go to a seminar and figure it out.
Right.
Right. Or golf. Like I retired from golf after I want to say like a year because I hated it. I hated how much commitment it required to get good at it. But you can't get good in golf in a summer. It's years of private lessons, right? Or maybe not private lessons, but it's years of lessons, years at the driving range. And so, a short answer or a long answer to your question is how long does it take? It takes, like any other skill, thousands of hours to acquire mastery. So I mean, that's not a sexy answer. I don't generally give sexy answers. I generally tell you that what I believe to be the truth.
Hey, we're all about the truth. We're all about the truth.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to touch on a little bit, because I know that you actually released an ebook about it as well, about the art of active listening. And so
yeah, active listening 2.0.
Yes, I'm excited for that. I wanted to bring that up because, when I was first getting into real estate, my biggest fear was to stay on the phone, was to spend time on the phone. Like, I wanted to get the call done and hang up, get the call done, hang up, get a no or hang up, right? But like,
yeah,
how can you tell someone to get more comfortable with spending time on the phone? Because ultimately, it's that time on the phone that really does lead to the conversion.
well, I think you got to begin with the end in mind. So, are we here to buy a house at a good price, or are we here to have as many conversations as possible? I like to believe everyone that's here right now, I see 66 in the audience, everyone's here is the goal is at a bare minimum to make a certain amount of money, right? With that money, maybe you're, buying a house, retiring your parents, paying for your kids' college, whatever, right? But you need a certain amount of money. So the objective really should be, at some point, generating income. And if we're trying to generate income, then all we can do is do income generating activities. And if we're trying to do income generating activities, then we got to put ourselves in the highest possible chance for success. And so again, beginning with the end in mind, if my goal is to make money, if my goal is to put food on the table for my family, then I got to be committed to doing the process, to executing the process. And part of executing the process is I know I need to get you deep into your feelings. And I can't get you deep into your feelings in less than 10 minutes. I can't. It's got to be a deep conversation. I mean, for us, I ran an appointment last Tuesday, and I want to say it was about an hour. And we didn't get deep enough into the emotions. And that was an hour I spent with the guy, right? If we're doing this right, we're getting to their emotional core. It's got to be deep into the feelings. So the other thing too, like another way to answer this question, if you go into the intensive care unit, specifically the burn unit at a hospital, right? Like if you ever witnessed this, a person that's been burned has to replace their bandage at least once a day. Otherwise, they risk infection. When a nurse is pulling the bandage off, they are putting that patient through miserable pain, right? The patient's probably crying and the nurses are emotional. Do they not pull the bandage off because it's uncomfortable? Absolutely not. They're doing it because they know it serves the patient. And it's the same thing here. If you want to buy someone's house at a good price, you got to earn it. And the price to earn it is to spend time with that prospect and getting them through and reliving the pain that they've experienced prior to you showing up. Again, it's not sexy.
It's not sexy, but it's real.
Very real.
That is real. And that is definitely the technique that I really try to focus on in my last acquisition call, which resulted in me locking up 3 properties in Ohio.
Nice.
And that's what worked. The guy, he's out of state, so we focused in on his pain point, the fact that these tenants are hoarding stuff in the house. The properties are depreciating in value really because the tenants, they keep bringing the stuff. The roof needs work. These properties clearly need work. They're distressed properties. But we focused on his problem, which was he's out of state. These tenants are giving him a headache, and he doesn't want to deal with it anymore. Even though they're paying, he doesn't want to deal with the situation anymore. So to focus on that situation, to focus on his pain, to focus on the fact that he's out of state, that he still has to deal with this headache, he's one signature away from a completely different reality. That's that solution that I can offer to him. And that's exactly what I was able to offer him.
Yeah, right? Like if anyone had, and God forbid, right, like something awful there's something horrible, some sort of horrific diagnosis, and you could take a pill to make it go away and be cured once and for all, would you take it? That's what we're offering. We're fixing this headache you've got in this property, or we're fixing this headache you've got in your life. There's no price, I would say, if you had a really horrible diagnosis, there's no price we wouldn't pay to recover, to cure ourselves. That's what we're doing.
That's absolutely true. And I think that as sales professionals, our job is really to qualify the people that we can help, because we don't want to waste time on people that don't have that pain, that aren't ready to make decisions. So what are some ways that we can disqualify working with dead leads, people that really aren't going to make a decision anytime soon? And how do we identify those people so that we don't waste time on those leads and we get on the phone with people that do want to take action and make a decision?
Well, there's a couple different things. First, I think it comes down to the list that we pull, and the other thing too is different people have different tolerance for pain, right? And so like if you're dealing with a person who's an accountant, they tend to have a lower stress tolerance, right? They can deal with a little bit less adversity. So, a code violation might be enough for them to have enough pain to want to sell at a distressed price. But you got these other people who, don't seem to really have their lives together. They can have a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, a lawsuit, a judgment, cars in their driveways, and they're like, yeah, this is life. This is what it is, right? Like, there's not. You might have a hard time finding pain with that person, and so you got to figure out like what's painful for one person is not necessarily painful for another person. So questions we might ask is, hey John, I was just curious, if I could pay you a price that made sense to you, and address all your other concerns, would you feel prepared to committing to working with us? And you were like, yeah, if you could pay my price and address my concerns, yeah, I could sell it to you. That's a qualified prospect. If someone says, yeah, I don't care what you offer me, I'm not selling my house, or what's your offer? What's your offer? Right? And they're completely rude and disrespectful. Odds are they're probably not a great prospect. Not to say that they won't sell, but they're not a great prospect, right? And so one way I would say for sure completely disqualify you, hey John, if I can pay you a price that makes total sense to you, would you feel prepared, or would you be interested in selling your property? And you say no, that is a 100% disqualified prospect. I don't have to worry about that prospect, at least for the next 30 to 90 days. But, if you said, yeah, if you can pay my price, I would sell. That is someone that at least now I know has some intention of selling. Then the follow-up question is, okay, well, if you were to sell, why would you sell? And now we're listening for motivation, right? Generally speaking, upsizing, downsizing, move to the other side of town, not the best people that fit our box, right? But if it's like, medical health, lost a job, moving to the other side of the country, want to be closer to my grandkids, these kind of deals, that's motivation. And we can dig deeper into those. So qualifying, I look at really two things. A, if I can pay you your price, would you feel comfortable committing to working with us? And B, what are your motivations? And it can't be upsizing or downsizing, because if that's the case, just go with a realtor, right? Like, I'm not going to be your guy.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're taking notes. Please drop some fire in the chat if you guys are getting some value from this conversation. I know that I am. I'm also taking notes. And I also want to dive into the importance of asking open-ended questions, because that's something that you mentioned a little bit earlier. And if we could talk about the importance of asking open-ended questions, and then some examples of some open-ended questions that we can use while we're on our acquisitions calls, that would be fantastic.
Okay, yeah. So open-ended questions, the reason why they're so important is because they're harder to lie to. And we gather intel. So I look at our job, again, is to uncover truth. let's just say we were playing Texas Hold'em, right? You've got your two cards, I got my two cards. Well, if I can ask you enough questions where you have your cards face up and my cards are face down, I should do pretty well at this game, right? Well, the only way I can do that is to ask open-ended questions. What have you tried so far? Who else knows about this? How would you know that you're working with the right person? What kind of terms are you looking for? Right? These are questions we could ask, and when you answer it, right, it's going to gather more intel. Questions that don't lead to honest answers. Are you looking for a cash offer? Are you the decision maker? Is the house in move-in ready condition? Right? Or is the house in good condition? They're all easily lied to questions or yes, no answers, of which we don't get a bunch of information. We don't get a whole lot of intel. So we want to ask questions that lead to open-ended answers, right? So how would you know, John, if you were working with the right person? You say, well, they have the cash, they got the bank statement, they were courteous. Hell, it could have been they're wearing pants, they didn't show up in jean shorts. I don't know, right? It's a completely open-ended question. It can go in any direction. I don't ask, if I say, they're saying, I'm also talking to a realtor, right? Oh, do you like that realtor? Or, if you ask, what did the realtor say? Trying to think. Questions I wouldn't want to ask is like, are you going to list it with the realtor? Right? Yeah, I'm talking to a realtor. Oh, are you going to list it with the realtor? That's an easily lied to question. And even if they answer honestly, we don't have a lot of information to work with. You tell me you're working with, I'm talking to a realtor. Oh, great. When are you guys going on the market? Oh, I'm not going on the market. Oh, what stopped you from signing with that realtor? Now it's an open-ended question. Now they're going to say, well, I didn't like to have to pay commissions. I didn't like it was going to take 6 months. I didn't like that I had to make repairs. I don't know what the reason is they didn't like the realtor. But by asking what stopped you from going with that realtor, they're going to tell me. Versus, oh, are you going to list it with that realtor? It's a yes, no answer. Does me absolutely no good. Right? Same thing with, I'm meeting with other investors. Oh, hey, you already have another offer? Oh, great. When are you guys closing on that one? Oh, I haven't signed it yet. Oh, what stopped you from signing with the other guy? I didn't care for his attitude. He seemed to make it only about money. Whatever. They're going to tell us all the reasons they don't like that guy. Versus, how much did he offer? That's none of your business. Back off, buddy. Right? Like, don't bother me. So you can see, asking the right question can give you a bunch of information to work with, versus asking, the wrong question. You run into a lot of blockage, right? And that's kind of what I was saying. We want to gather intel because if we understand, going back to the poker example, if I can see your two cards, I should win at this game. My goal in asking questions is to understand your two cards. Or another example I've used is like if we were playing the game of Battleship and I got to put a mirror on your side, I should do pretty well. Well, my goal in asking questions is to basically have like a mirror on that side of your table when we're playing Battleship.
Well, I clearly visualize that analogy, and I completely understand what you mean by wanting to put that mirror on the other side of the battleship. Because you want to know really like what their end game is. You want to understand what are their objectives, what are their goals, and then figure out how you can help them. And I think that it's so super important for everybody in here to look at real estate in a way where it's not just wholesaling. I know that's kind of like the entry level. Everybody starts wholesaling, but there are more ways to solve seller problems than just a cash offer. And so if you can understand what the seller is facing in terms of a problem, then you can kind of curate your solution so that you can provide an option for them that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing too, right? When we're talking about asking open-ended questions, who knows what's important to the homeowner?
Homeowner.
The homeowner does. So wouldn't it make sense for us to ask us the questions so they give us that information versus assuming, right? Like we assume they want cash. We assume they want a fast close. We assume they want no inspection. We assume they want us to pay out closing costs. They have no idea what we do, right? And like even we presume that they know that we know what they want, right? And so we'll tell them, "Oh, I can close in 7 days." How many homeowners have you met that actually want to close in 7 days? Very few. Very few. But we just assume, right? Because we're so surrounded by our peers, right? Fast closing, cash, no inspection, pay all closing costs. We just assume that's what they want, but we don't actually know what they want. They know what they want. So when it makes sense for us to give them an offer that matches as close as possible to what they want versus what we think they want.
Absolutely. I mean, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. But we don't do it. We go in there and we're like, "Hey, John, here's the thing. Your roof sucks. Your window's broken. I'm going to have to repaint, recarpet, and, I'm going to have all this hard money costs, and I got to pay realtor commissions, and I give you all these reasons that are my problems that you couldn't care less about." But that's how a lot of us negotiate. Right? How many times have you negotiated with someone, you said these things, and they're like, "Well, that's your problem, not mine."
Right. Yeah. I mean, with this portfolio guy, this guy has been the most difficult seller I've ever done business with. So he definitely gave me a lot of that pushback. And, I tried to go in. So I got the $7,500 guaranteed. I tried to go in for another $2,500 price reduction on the guy because, why not? Shoot your shot. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm calling him up. "Yeah, Jim, we're so close. We can close this Friday. We're ready to go. We're not so far off on price." And I tell him, I said, "We just need a $2,500 price reduction on one of the properties." And he stopped. He said, "Man, I'm already giving you a screaming deal. I think, this deal is just going to be off the table." He's ready to walk right then and there. Mm-hmm. And that's my problem. I'm trying to fill my pocket. I'm not really looking at like, what is this guy trying to accomplish? Mm-hmm. And that's why I got that pushback. So it was just very relevant, what you said to the deal that I'm actively doing right now.
Right, but look, here's another thing too, right? Because we just had our dispo guy go through this, right? We don't ask necessarily for the price reduction outright. We might ask them along the lines like, "Well, like, I feel bad asking this question, but I don't know if this is on the table, but what if we could just maybe drop $2,500 on one of the properties?" Right? And now it's like, I didn't ask for a price reduction. I'm just saying, "Hey, what if that happens?" And he's going to say, "No, that's a deal killer." Okay, I was just curious. I'm not going to ask for the price reduction. But if he says, "Yeah, I guess that's fair. All right, I'm going to go ahead and send you an amendment that clarifies that." I didn't outright say it. Right. But I suggested it. And if he's like, goes on with it, we'll do it. If he's like, "No, that's ridiculous." Like, I didn't think so. I felt bad about asking. Yeah, forget I even asked about it. And now I didn't risk him blowing up on me, because all I did was ask an open question. Hey, what if we were to do that?
I like that. What if? Yeah. I'm going to use that in my next sales call. And anytime I need to go in for the price reduction, I'm gonna present it in a way where it's an open-ended question, and I ask that, what if we could drop another $2,500 on one of these properties?
And you gotta feel really bad about it. "Hey, John, like, I feel really bad even asking this question. What if we were, what if we did this?" And by the way, like, as we're going through this, some of the people that are watching this might be totally turned off by the way we're approaching this. And I get it. 5 years ago, I've probably been the same way as well, right? Like, "Hey, Steve, you're acting in this, you're being," what's the word I'm looking for? Not misleading. You're being
disingenuous.
Thank you, John. Right? You might feel this way watching me go through this. Here's the other side of the coin. Homeowners feel zero guilt lying to us. Right? They will tell you they got higher offers. They will tell you they don't need to sell. Right? This is a game that's being played by both sides. So long as you're actually helping them move on with their lives and accomplish their objectives, I got no qualms with how we play this game. I'll put it another way, right? for some of us that were traumatized as young men, like myself, I was always friend zoned. I was the good guy. I was the one she could call, right, when she was abused by the other guy. We don't play this game in sales. In sales, we're not going to get friend zoned. We're not going to get, let me think about it. We're not going to get, let me sleep on it. I'll call you back. Right? That's not us. Either we're buying the house or we're scorching the earth and no one's buying the house.
Talk to me a little bit about that, Steve. Scorching the earth, because I know that there are a bunch of people in here that don't know what it means to scorch the earth. But if you tell them, you know, it's going to be a lot more difficult for people to steal your leads. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, look, we're in Phoenix. This is the guru capital of the world, right? We got Pace, Jamil, Brent Daniels, you know, Carlos and Sal.
Yep.
Right? This is the guru capital of the world, right? And so we're super collaborative. We're friends with each other, right? We share notes, we compare, here's what we're doing, here's how we're underwriting, right? At the same time, if I'm not buying the house, nobody's buying the house. So if I go in there and they say, well, you know, we're pretty close, this isn't going to work. Hey, John, I appreciate that. You seem really nice. I want to make sure no one takes advantage of you. You got a pen and paper handy. Hey, make sure it comes in after me, has $10,000 non-refundable earnest money deposit, make sure the contract's not assignable, and A, B, C. Like, we're going to go and burn, right? And so what's going to happen? The next wholesaler comes in the Phoenix market, if you guys are in Phoenix, I'm sorry. They're going to come in, and they're going to get blown up. And they're going to call me back. It's like, wow, Steve, those other wholesalers or those other investors were really uncomfortable with what you asked me to do. Right? I'd rather sell it to you. So that's us scorching the earth. If no one's buying,